Yes, well, just another peaceful Sunday, really. I don't know what all the fuss was about. But in terms of the refereeing performance for John Beaton, that actually was quite a stress-free 90 minutes by Old Firm standards, I thought.
Yeah, well, you say stress-free. 90 minutes
Aye.
are 90 minutes are full of stress if you're doing an Old Firm derby. As Steve, who we do the podcast with, says, my granny could make anything easy. You don't make it easy. You've got to manage it. And I thought, to be fair, I thought John managed that game very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on John Beaton in these Old Firm games because of some of the past stuff. Because I thought, actually, if I'm honest, I thought Brendan Rodgers was a little bit over the line with him last season after the game at Tynecastle when he seemed to single him out in much the same way that Rangers had previously singled out Willie Collum. And it's almost as if there's something being said in between the lines, and I think that puts a guy like John Beaton in a really precarious position going into to these kind of games. As you said, I'm saying it's stress free, but I mean that can't be easy for him, knowing that he's almost been painted as the pantomime villain before these games have even started.
Listen, it doesn't matter. See, when that game starts, 50% of the population of this country are going to disagree whatever decision you give.
With every single decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. But John's professional. John has massive experience within the domestic game and European games. I know, I know John, not terribly well, but I know John. He's got a very, very strong character, and that wouldn't play any attention on him. And he will do that job to the best of his ability and his professional ability to do that game today, which he done. Which he
Yeah.
absolutely done.
No, I thought it was very good. I thought it was very good. I mean, in terms of Celtic's the opening goal, which was then chalked off by VAR, I think that looked like the correct decision as well. I don't think anybody can really have any complaints with the way the officials controlled the game today. Although I will bring up one. That was in a couple of incidents with Diamondi, and I think Diamondi seemed to lose the plot. And you'll know what that's like. When a player has kind of lost his head in the atmosphere. I thought Diamondi was guilty of it. I thought I was quite surprised, or maybe you'll correct me here, but did VAR take another look at his collision with Alistair Johnson in the first half? Both players were booked, of course, for him.
Yeah, I think Diamondi was the aggressor at that moment in time. However, both players came together. I think it was a wee bit of bravado, probably more than anything. I think a yellow card for each player was correct at that moment in time. However, Diamondi probably pushed it a wee bit, continuing in the game. Was it a surprise that he was substituted, maybe to save him from himself? Possibly not. But I think John handled that well. But yeah, I think Diamandi did sort of push it to limits before Clement seen the better side to move him from the field of play.
Well, that's right. I mean, there was an incident just before that substitution where Diamondi was complaining about being fouled. I think he was actually, because he'd won the foul and been awarded the foul quite correctly, he seemed to be calling for one of the Celtic players to get a yellow card for it. That seemed to be the only reason that he could be protesting at that point. And he was actually quite brazen about the way that he was bawling at John Beaton. And I felt at that point, given the new sort of guidelines that have been put in for this season in terms of what is it they call it? Des not
football expectations.
Yeah, okay. Whatever that means. Whatever that means. So, but you're not allowed, or you shouldn't be allowed to shirk the referee. Now, at that point, I thought he'd overstepped a line. I thought he was in serious danger at that point of getting a yellow card, and I'm pretty sure at that point that John Beaton had to pull over James Tavernier to have a word with him to maybe try and take the sting out of the situation. But I thought under the letter of the law, that could easily be a second yellow.
It could have been. Absolutely. Could have been. But I think, again, John's managed the game within the game there. And he's probably spoken to James Tavernier and said, have a word. He's got nothing left. Which, again, And that's how you have to manage these volatile situations within these particular derbies.
Mm-hmm. No, see, I actually agree with that, Des. I think that's the right thing to do. Do take this thing out of it. But if you are presented with a edict or a new set of guidelines or rules from above which says if players are shouting at the referee, it's an automatic yellow card, no grey areas.
Well, well, there you go. You've got one game, you've got another game the next week, and I totally agree with Keith. I understand completely what you're saying, but how do you manage a situation? How do you manage a game? Because if you then go and react to a situation like that, what is the repercussions? And it shouldn't be that way. Absolutely, It should not be that way. But I think John done the right thing there.
Yeah, I mean, because if Diamandi gets the red card, then that opens a whole new can of worms, doesn't it? I guess, and that's what you guys are trying to avoid when you're out there.
Don't try to avoid anything. We just try to get the decisions right.
Oh,
Not going
you
to
don't
trip me up.
you don't like the headlines.
Absolutely not.
In terms of all the sort of decisions, then, do you agree with me? I couldn't really see anything other than that where you would say, that there was an issue at all.
No. I think every caution that was given was justified. I thought the players allowed the game to go ahead. I thought John just managed it behind the scenes pretty much well. Thankfully, VAR didn't need to be called into play. So yeah, I don't think we can have any complaints with the match officials. They're not going to be talking about John Beaton tomorrow morning. They're just going to be talking about Celtic winning 3-0.
Yeah, and about the match itself, I mean, does it make it easier from an officiating point of view when it is as one-sided as that? I'm guessing that if it's more 50-50, a right proper tear-up, it can become a bit hairy, but does that help? Did that make an easier afternoon for the officials, the fact that Celtic were so far on top of Rangers?
Not really, because you've always got to be aware of the next challenge. You've always got to be aware. If you make a call on a foul, on an offside, on any infringement, the most important decision is the next one. So it doesn't matter for those whole 90 minutes plus added time. You've got to be on your mettle, and particularly under a game that's under scrutiny. I mean, we're not just watching this in Glasgow; we're watching this all around the world. So you've got to be under scrutiny the whole time. You've got to be under your own mettle. So it's 0-0, 3-0. You're still putting the same concentration and still the same effort into it.
Yeah, and I guess as well, when it does get to a situation like that, when players are losing the plot a little bit, and I think a few of the Rangers players did, we've seen it in previous derbies where when the game's getting away, somebody decides to just go and clatter into somebody, and I guess that can be. Do you find it surprising that there wasn't even any sign of that from the Rangers players?
Listen, my coaching days are over, but I would like to have thought if it was one of my teams, you'd have a wee bit more about you, but not for a referee to comment. However, I will. I just thought Rangers lacked a bit of desire today. Not desire, just lacked a bit of quality.
I think you're right in both counts. I think it was desire and quality, because I think there was countless moments where you saw some of the body language from some of the Rangers players. I just don't know how much they fancied the fight. I think they started pretty well, but I think they get the fright of their lives when the disallowed goal was scored after 11 minutes. I think that rocked them back into their shells, and I saw no sign of them wanting to really engage from that point on. I felt they just totally capitulated.
Yeah, well, I was sat with my son and watching the first 10 minutes, and he's like, "Wow, Rangers are all over us," and they were absolutely were, and it was probably the first time for, well, at least since Clement came back in, Rangers were all over it, and Celtic actually had a wee bit of work to do at the back. I thought Rangers were great for the first 10 minutes, but as you quite rightly said, when that first goal got chopped off, they almost capitulated. They almost went, "Oh, right, this is what we're up against now."
Yeah, and a little birdie was telling me that I think the cameras panned to Barry Ferguson at one point. A little birdie was telling me that that you were having to deal with him in the old, what is it, the Masters tournament recently. And you probably saw more aggression from him in a friendly Masters competition than you did from the rest of that Rangers team today.
I mean, Kenny Miller came off. It was at half time or something like the two, and we're having a bit of a barney. I'm like, guys, it's a 5-a-side game. Let's get on with it. But I'll tell you what, they could have done with a Barry Ferguson in there today.
Well, that's exactly right. Tell me this, was he moaning at you?
No, I was moaning at Kenny.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I think we've had an easy shift on ref watch today, then, haven't we? Because I think on these days, on Old Firm days, there's usually something, a major talking point. But I think we've kind of got off lightly today, as did John Beaton and his assistants.
Listen, no day's an easy day. You'll take them when you get them.
Brilliant. Des, thanks very much for joining us.
No problem at all, Keith.
Cheers, mate.